Hey, I was thinking we could go in my garden together because I haven't been there in almost a week, which is devastating to me, but we should find some really cool stuff today. I haven't even previewed it because I didn't want to go alone. And we're gonna find stuff. We're gonna do a little bit of work because I know we need to trellis something, and we're gonna harvest some stuff too because I know that there's a lot growing that might even be a little bit too far gone. So let's go check it out.
Wait, you're not gonna brag on your husband for what he built you?
Oh yeah, Bo got to work and he made us something fun. Let's start here. It's a very good place to start, but I'm a little bit concerned because you guys are gonna have a lot of opinions on what I have permitted to take over. I think some of this is probably Timothy grass. Some of this is like a Timothy hay. It's like the things that nobody wants to eat. And then some of it is Bermuda grass, which I know most people are like, get rid of it, it's impossible, everyone hates it. But it's one of the things that grows really well here and will withstand a lot of harsh summer. So instead we actually try to grow Bermuda grass here because then our cows can graze on it. It establishes like really good root system in the soil. And I think this is just one of the things we're gonna have to live with. Like we're gonna have to weed the bed of Bermuda grass. But look what's happening even though we have Bermuda. So we've got cucumbers here and there should be some more in the garden. I think today's probably gonna be a good like thematically cucumber day. We've got to harvest some. We have to pin some up on the trellises that Bo just made. We also need to figure out how to store it because my refrigerator just went out.
All right, you want us to go out? Okay.
There you go.
We've got a lot of work to do today. All right, this strawberry is here, but I think it should have some extra time. You know what I need to do is, well, let me show you. So we've got strawberries growing. Not a ton, but these strawberries were planted probably 3 years ago now. And the slugs love them and the birds love them. So a few years ago, I tried this method where you put an organza bag around the strawberries, and that was really beneficial. I think I'm gonna run in and go grab some, and I'll show you how we use them on the strawberries. Some people use them on their orchards or their like newly budding fruit trees. So we're gonna do that today on here. That'll be a little of the work we have to do. Trellising is work we have to do. Weeding is work we have to do. And just basically maintaining the garden before our heavy summer heat comes in. And take a look at how our drip irrigation is doing because it's really surprising the results we've gotten so far. I also saw a bunch of mosquitoes, so I'm genuinely deciding, do I want to go in and get bug spray or can I just beast it out and like endure? And I think we're gonna endure tonight. It's about 7:30 and I love the evenings in the summer because it's like this, where you can get out and it still feels like so much daylight is left in the day. I love long days, but it's still like 85 degrees out, and yet we put our garden in a place where all of our evening shade comes from these trees around it. So I know a lot of people like to have an in-ground garden where they're putting down some landscape fabric or the big gardening tarp where you just kind of burn holes in it. And that is probably really, really great if you've got good soil anyways. But we already have to bring in so much soil. I like the garden beds. I like the look of it. It feels really orderly. It's probably not going to produce the most amount of produce or food for our family, but it is enough. Ooh, spider. Hello. And it just requires maintenance. So we're gonna end up with piles and piles of this. But it's probably just right for my temperament to require me to slow down and not just produce. Because I have a tendency to be one of those like yes to everything people, unless something makes me slow down, like Bo. When we were first married, I would say yes to everything all the time. Like If you wanted to volunteer on your team, you're gonna want me because I'm like, yeah, let's sacrifice everything we can to make that event or that thing happen. And the garden really doesn't let you do that. There is like this huge time of hurry up and go. You got to get your soil in, you got to amend your soil, you got to make sure that your watering systems are in place. And then you've got to get your seed in the ground. But now these cucumbers are cucumbering. We still have 2 more that we'll probably come in and get next week, and some more on top over the next couple weeks. And that's just on one of the plants. And we have so many, many, many plants. So I think the garden is a sweet thing, and maybe it's like what you do when you're in your 40s. You just start evaluating what's worth your time and what's not. So you might not love sitting in the garden and digging Bermuda grass out of your beds. I don't do it every day, but I do it a couple of times a month, like 2 or 3 times a month. And it's nice to get your hands in the dirt. We had plans to do this in the morning, and I just chose to sleep in instead. So I think there's probably a misconception. Like if you're like us 5 years ago, well, 6 years ago now, and you're like, homesteaders, they're just working so hard. They're getting up with the sun. They're going to bed with the sun. They're exhausted. They're farm tired. We are a lot of days, especially when we start a new thing. Like when we first got Goldie and we first started milking, I remember texting Rebecca Rhodes and I was like, oh, this is what farm tired is like. And she was like, yeah, are your arms burning? I felt like I could win a arm wrestling match at that point. Like I had this like, my body is so tired. I've just done a whole workout. And she's like, this is just the beginning. And it really was. But we're not get up with the sun kind of people. Well, let's be specific. I am not. Bo loves to get up with the sun. He loves to get work done before anyone wakes up. And I would rather just like sleep until 8:30 and get up gently. It's just what I like. But because we didn't do that this morning when it was 70, 68 degrees outside, we're gonna be sweating all evening. So I've got strawberries over here too. These ones are much, much smaller, and I don't think I need to do these organza bags yet, but let me show you how I use them over here. There might be a whole like microplastic situation. I'm probably not gonna be your perfect gardener, but I am gonna be a gardener who helps you see like, you can do this too. You don't have to be perfect to garden and enjoy it. Ugh, let's clear some of that out. Okay, so this berry especially, prime picking. If I don't put this bag on here, it's really likely that something is gonna come along in the next 12 to 20 hours before I get out here again and gonna eat it. So this just goes right around the neck of the berry. And this one's pretty much on its way. So I'm gonna wanna get this on its own. However, I have these ones that are just like itty bitty babies. And I'm gonna put them on a bag together. Let me see if there's any more on this plant. This one too. And they can all be in that same organza bag. You can see this is gonna last me like 100 years. I have so many of these. And I've used a bunch, multiple seasons at once. Let's see, do we have to keep that one in? Yeah, we can put this one in too. Don't do this when it's still a flower, but wait until the flower falls off and the fruit begins to produce. We have not lost a ton of berries to predators, but I think like just the natural things, like you can see right here. This is the remainder of some critters, some pests, berry snack, and our blackberries are a lot like that too. So we may bag up a couple blackberries today, and the cucumbers will be fine. It's the ones that really turn like color. So if you've got something going from green to red, this is where our birds get excited about it, but also we see mostly like slugs or mice or like small rodents that are getting into the garden and they're taking over those berries right about when you're gonna wanna eat them. And it's kind of like avocados in your fridge. Like they're terrible, super hard for like 10 days and all of a sudden they're good for like 24 hours. And you better get to it, otherwise they're gonna rot. That's how the strawberries are. We're like waiting till it's this right time of summer where the sugars are really producing, they taste sweet and not tart anymore, and then you lose like 5 of them in one day to a slug. So plant oodles and oodles and oodles of berries if you actually want to harvest that you can put up, or just have berry snacks. We're like walking, my girls are walking through here all the time, just grabbing a berry and snacking on it while we go look at flowers. So every year I'll plant something that'll trellis or use the fence as like a lean-to. This year it's cucumbers. I honestly did not know how they were gonna do. All of these against these edges are seed, and then I have a few others that were from starter. So you'll kind of see how they're different along their development at this stage. The chickens will come around here, so I try and keep all the fruit on the inside, even if it'll go like along the fence line and one of these flowers starts to develop on the outside of the fence and then chickens are just pecking at it, so we'll try and bring it back in. But hopefully what we're gonna see in a couple weeks is more runners like this coming out from the strawberry. I know some people will pick that up and replant them somewhere else, but I really just want this whole bed full of strawberries anyways. So weeding is gonna get more room for the berries to expand, but it's also gonna give more nutrients available in the soil to the cucumbers. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 cucumbers along this fence line. And then, if you haven't seen it yet, these are the passion flowers. This was not an accidental purchase. It was just a really good example of not knowing what you're getting yourself into with certain plants. So this started as just one plant. And the single plant I began with is actually another like 5 feet this way. So passion flower is going to shoot out from many, many different places. In fact, in this one bed, we've got to get it under control. It's not too hard to dig up. You just have to maintain it. But I have 1, 2 that are already like vining up and out. And then here's a third one here that we need to take out, probably relocate it. This strawberry. Huh? Yeah, the cows do like it. They really love to come after it. They're gorgeous. They're really pretty ornamentals that if you're in, so I guess we're in zone 9 now, but I guess last year we were zoned 8B. It's still gonna do its job in a zone 8. It really takes off, does really well with the heat, especially when we didn't have rain last year, it was still crushing it. So this is a good example of how something is coming after these berries even before we eat them. Just like already kind of slugging its way through, kind of nasty. We'll throw it to the chickens. They'll love me for it. So this passion flower is gonna take over this whole thing, but you can see like how prolific these passion flowers are, and they really take very little maintenance at all. They've transferred really well too. Instead of taking like a cutting, I think you can take a cutting and root this like with a hormone, or the same way you might take like sweet potatoes and propagate those. But when I give these out, I usually just come right back to one of these extra shoots that I don't want or like don't like the location of, and I'll cut that off. I'll just like dig that up and repot it and then gift it to friends. So if you're like me and you like really beautiful but really affordable gifts, passion flower is a good one to grow. A lot is going to seed now. This is the comfrey that Bo planted 5 years ago, probably like 2 weeks after we moved in. It's going to be here forever. And then this was a surprise volunteer parsley. So I'm gonna let it go to seed again. It's obviously really hardy, and we're just gonna hope that this thing keeps coming back every single year. It's about to get so hot that very few things like leafy greens or otherwise are gonna wanna keep doing their job. I am a mosquito's favorite meal. I feel like in every marriage, there are 2 types of people. There is one that is completely unaffected by bugs or allergies or anything like that. And then there's one that is completely consumed by all of those things. I'm a mosquito's favorite buffet. A couple of things are going here, and I actually was surprised by this one. This was a bay leaf that I bought at a local, probably third-party nursery. I'm sure something else grew it, and then they sold it here. It smells so good, and I've already used it in a bunch of bone broths and soups. It's right next to the sage, which should be bolting soon. And the oregano is already fast at work. This is totally ready to just explode oregano next year. And there's a volunteer tomato in here that I don't know when I last planted tomatoes in here. It had to be a couple years ago. a few more herbs. So I've got this like purple holy basil. I think this is a tulsi, maybe. This is, okay, this is like the dream. When our friends move next door and we cut this like magical door between our properties against the wall. This is honeysuckle, but I didn't want to wait to buy it, and that meant that I had to plant it somewhere. So we're growing honeysuckle here and then one other spot in the garden. It should vine across here. And honeysuckle is one of those things that, like, I don't know, if you've Bo never had honeysuckle before. He never grew up with it. But when I was on the East Coast, I grew up in Virginia for a time. And this is one of those things, there was one on my walk to school, and we would pluck a honeysuckle flower, and then you kind of tear it off right at the blossom end. And if you pull it, a little bit of nectar comes out and you can like taste it. So that was one of those things that I thought, if we're gonna put anything by that magic door, why not be something fragrant and sweet and beautiful, and also that we can have like a fun kid experience. So all the new leaves are growing. I was surprised that I didn't kill it. I know that sounds crazy because I have a really beautiful garden right now, but I've also killed a lot of things in the garden. So right now it's just very, like, you can see it's soft, kind of velvety, and the new leaves are forming. So we didn't kill it, yay. It's still growing, and this should have some yellow or white flowers. I'm not sure that it's gonna flower this hot in the summer, but for sure in the fall. The cool thing about Texas is, although our summers are unbelievably hot, like today's heat index I think was already 109. Like, that's nuts. It's the first week of June. But we're gonna get a second growing season like a lot of people have in their spring. So if you're in like spring summer garden right now, we're like out of that. But in just about a month and a half, we're gonna be able to start planting, and we'll basically have second spring garden, except instead of watermelons, we'll already start planting our pumpkins and our squash for fall. You'll see a couple of places in the garden. I think we've got this in maybe four places in the primary garden, and then a separate secret project that I'm working on. I'll give you a sneak peek of it, but it's nowhere near finished. This sweet potato vine is so easy for us to grow throughout our summer. It's basically gonna be like a living mulch in especially the big beds, but then it's gonna help just cover our entire bed, because all this grass, even if I leave it and I don't pull it up, it's just gonna die back to brown in a couple of weeks. So this will cover the bed, kind of like you might put straw or hay on your bed in the summer to put it to sleep. We're gonna put it to sleep during, just like you might put straw on your garden beds in the winter to put it to sleep, we're gonna put sweet potatoes across our garden beds in the summer as a cover crop, and it's going to just take care of preventing new weeds from coming. It's also obviously gonna turn into sweet potatoes in the end. The leaves on the sweet potato are pretty cool because if you've been here for a minute, you know that we're kind of crazy on drought proofing our property. What can we do to grow? We can't grow hay yet. So what can we do to grow supplemental feed for our animals? The sweet potatoes are that for sure. And then our fodder trees are still kicking really well. Every single morning we come out and we grab mulberry and poplar, and we've got some willow over there, and then the comfrey and some ruellia, and we're just putting it into the mix with our cow, and she loves it. It slows her down too, right? Like, it's gonna save us time while we're milking her, because we're milking by hand. So it keeps her interested a little bit longer. It's also a great protein source, and that's exactly what she needs, because she's producing milk not only for us, but for a calf that we share with. So she's doing the most, and we wanna give her the best. Speaking of giving things the best, my poor cucumbers over here have been waiting and waiting. Oh my gosh, look. I am not giving this cucumber my best. So we're gonna fix this problem here. They're just hiding in these beds and in the grass. We need to trellis it up over this, and Bo just put these in yesterday. Thank you, my love. Handsome, cute, and very sturdy. We need to take this cucumber off, give it to the pigs, and then go ahead and start training this cucumber up today. I've already had a bunch of things grow too big just because I get distracted, or actually I planned on the most empty June on my calendar that has ever been empty. And I have had the busiest June in the last 6 days that I've ever had. So a few of these have gone by the wayside or just gotten too big for them to taste good. These are actually pickling cucumbers. They are not supposed to get this big. So pig feed. Bo asked me, how do I want this trellis to go? And he was like, do you need the T-posts on the inside or the outside of the trellis? And I was like, hadn't really thought about that. So if there's a reason I shouldn't put them on the inside of the trellis, let me know. But hadn't thought of any reason that would be good enough to make him undo the work and switch it up. So instead, we're just gonna keep it like this. But everybody's gonna do it. That's not gonna help me. Everybody's gonna do it a little bit differently. If you already have tendrils, I actually like when, okay, I've learned this for the cucumbers. I like when the cucumbers are a little bit bigger because I can manipulate them more easily without having to come do it every single day. But let me tell you, I thought I could do that same thing with the, oh, a little snail, you sucker. Look away if you don't like snail murder. I thought I could do the same thing with the tomatoes. Like, hey, I'll just let the tomatoes grow and then I'll teach them where I want them to go. And that was a terrible idea. And I wound up like breaking tomato stems off. But the cucumbers are more my style. Like if we can be a little bit lazy in the way we raise up our cucumbers in the way that they should go, then I'm gonna do that. And these cucumbers, like this is doing really, really well. This one was not from seed. This one was from a starter plant, but the one next to it, totally from seed. And you're gonna see just how well it's doing. So I think this is honestly good enough. We've got probably, I don't know, half a dozen cucumbers on there. We might end up with too many cucumbers in the coming weeks. Can you have too many cucumbers when you have a toddler who's just gonna eat them all halfway anyways? All right, let's take, okay, we got a lot. I'm laughing because this is my grand vision. Obviously, this is what anyone would do, but when you're a chaotic gardener where you're not always sure if you're gonna get produce because you haven't been always that very good at gardening in the past, I was like, look, it's exactly what I wanted. I wanted the cucumber to come up and over and I'd have all this garden space. And it's like, yeah, that's exactly the point of trellising thing, is it gives you more space. So eventually, all of those beds that I just showed you with the parsley and the comfrey and then the ruellia, which is a really cool, I think we even have Malabar spinach in there. This was an experiment when we very first moved here. No fencing, no like extra watering or anything. It was just these two tiny little beds that we brought from Katy, Texas. And I was like, babe, this is so, yeah, thank you. I was like, babe, this is so crazy. Like, why are you gonna waste space in a moving van to bring these garden beds? Like, that's ridiculous. They were a little taste of hope. Like when we put these perennials in here and they just kept growing and they kept coming back and they were thriving with very little maintenance and very little water. It was like, hey, I think we can do this homestead thing. I think this is gonna work out. And they really, really have. They've been like tried and true, steady, with no effort at all. So we're gonna redo those beds, keep all the goods that are in them, and they'll come to meet out here at each of these trellises. We've got more sweet potatoes in this bed, a gigantic zucchini that I don't even wanna go over and take a look at because I'm afraid they're gonna be so huge. And then not really this was an all me kind of thing. I wish I had done this sooner. If I could go back to very first year of gardening, I would plant perennials and I will plant flowers because it feels like the garden is this amazing chocolate cupcake. We just started making this chocolate cupcake recipe that my mother-in-law gave me. It has espresso in it and it tastes like no other chocolate cake you've ever had. It's so, so good already. But then you put this like cream cheese frosting on top and you're just like, shut up, get out of town. I want this every day for the rest of my life.
Recipe coming soon.
Recipe coming soon. The garden is the chocolate cupcake. It's beautiful, it's grounding, it smells amazing, it feels good, things are alive, it gives you hope. But then you see some like flowers up in the garden and you're like, that's the icing. It's everything you didn't know you needed and it's turning out so good. But let me point out one really sneaky thing about this huge, towering garden bed full of corn. Moment for all of us to acknowledge that I grew corn.
Oh, just like that, huh?
Okay, and then, let's see. Oh, I hope it's okay. It feels like kernels. Holy cow. This is gonna work. Oh, something ate parts of it. But that's okay, we'll just cut it off.
No way.
Look at it! There it is. That's what ate it.
Hold on, let me see.
Goodbye, little.
Oh, hold it steady. Turn around. Way to go, babe.
Well, let's see what the other ones do.
You grew corn.
I grew corn! Yeah, same kind of thing. It's to here.
They ate it?
Probably. But I don't even care. I'm just excited that I got some. There we go.
Mom,
What is it? What do you see? What it do?
This is just some easy meal Indian food. But this is from our garden.
What?
How'd you do that?
How did I do what?
Babe,
What?
you grew corn.
I grew corn.
That's a
And we're
lot of corn.
And I
No.
was just walking in the garden, I was like, dang it, there's not enough to put up. And then I was like, shut up. You're
You
eating
did
corn
it.
from your garden. That's awesome.
Good job, babe.
But I don't like it.
How is that possible?
Isn't it so flavorful? It's like,
Wow.
it's kind of like everything you ever had of corn.
is there any more?
More corn? Yes. Everything you've had of corn is like a diluted taste of this. I grew corn and we ate the corn and we loved the corn and then we kept growing more corn. Like, what? I may not be able to grow zucchini, but I grew corn. Okay, come check out the gigantic zucchini. This is nothing near what I pulled off of here the other day. I think we can just pull it. This is normal zucchini. I'm so sorry, I misled you. But the zucchini plant is gigantic. Like, I've never grown a zucchini plant so huge as this before. It's actually producing some pretty decent zucchinis, but a couple of weeks ago, I don't know, maybe it's just like a hardy old girl, because a couple of weeks ago, it was just covered in leaf-footed bugs. I was really worried it had maybe gotten some vine borers. Yeah, there's one here, and then another one here. And then I've got a couple more plants back there. But I forgot about this zucchini because I thought the bugs had gotten all of it. 4 times the size of this. I got a zucchini 4 times the size of this because I had just forgotten about it. And the pigs ate very well. That's actually how we got the pigs into our trailer to take them to market.
Here, big.
These have turned out to be really good and honestly last a long time. I've been picking them usually when they're more yellow like this, but I think our birds are dying down. Like, they're just not interested. I've sacrificed a couple, so like this one got chewed up. I think Bo saw, was it a woodpecker? What a jerk. But I've honestly only sacrificed probably a dozen and I've harvested, I don't know, I'll have to weigh it. Like, I've harvested them, washed them, put them in the freezer because somebody on the internet said to do that. I think we have like 10 gallons of Amish paste and San Marzano tomatoes, and then these have been really good snacking. We made sourdough the other day and homemade mayo, put the sliced up cherry tomatoes on there, and they were so good. So you can see a couple more. Like, some of them are not going to be used or eaten, but I feel like that's kind of balancing things out. So when they're eaten by a bug or a bird, it's giving the garden a little more diversity. Okay, so I have no idea what this is, guys. This might be a celebrity, but I didn't buy any celebrities. All of these tomatoes were from starts. So I kind of have been guessing along the way when one looks like a different shape. There was another one this large, and I usually don't grow slicers because they take so much water, but the drip irrigation is doing really well, so I might grow some slicers in our kind of like second spring garden. We have watermelon. I keep checking on these like children, but this watermelon also was from a start. Yeah, if you need permission to get the starts, just go get them. I don't know what this is going to be. If you know what this dark fleshy watermelon is, well, I guess it's not fleshy. I feel like I'm suspicious that this might be yellow inside. But if you know what this kind of watermelon is, let me know. I think this one has 2 or 3 growing on it. We're just going to let it grow wild all over here. And there's some weeds mixed in. I think that might be a sunflower over there. But these definitely are these are a good result of succession planting. I didn't plant these probably until 3 or 4 weeks after our first sunflowers, and we've just been harvesting them and packaging them up and giving them to friends and sharing like beautiful things, because who doesn't need beautiful things? But I'm really pleased with how many are coming off. You know, we're not like trying to market garden these. They're just really lovely. They are the icing on the chocolate cake. This zinnia, this was like a mix of colors. And I am so happy with the flowers this year. I would be lying if I said that I wasn't thinking about like a farm stand or like just flowers for sale each week when they're in season. And I think that might be in the works for next year, especially when Chelsea moves next door. I'm like, let's sell all the things at our farm stand outside of our house. That's been the best part of the whole garden, is watching the flowers do their thing and then feeling like, we could make something of this. Like we could do a little side gig and make a couple $1,000s in a season and then shut it all down till the next season. So I'm super stoked about that. But I definitely will have to learn more about mastering the sunflowers. Some of them have just come out so puny that they're like a perfect like 8-ounce size bouquet. And we just mash all of these up. The girls love how we cut down the big ones though. These were the original sunflowers that grew up those very first few weeks. So we've already hacked this down and harvested so much off of these flowers. See, when I say an idiot can grow zucchini, I am not that idiot. This is what happens to my zucchini, even near nasturtium. Like I planted nasturtium in this bed too. So I'm not saying I'm doing something wrong, like predators are predators, you're gonna have pests. But I am saying I am the idiot who cannot grow zucchini. Please tell us all your zucchini tips. I would love to grow zucchini. Like this is a gigantic plant and there is not a single zucchini growing on it. There was one, you can see the little nubby. There was one growing and then not. So I don't know if vine borers got this one. It's really likely. But I'm gonna give it time like I did the gigantic one and we'll see. This one doesn't have any visible pests on it. We'll see if it's gonna do anything. Did you know that when you grow these purple beans, you cook them and they're going to turn green? They're gonna be as green as these green beans when you cook them. They just lose all their purple.
The only weird thing is the purple beans are turning green. Why are the purple beans turning green? What?
Not a single. This one might look a little bit purple-ish.
That's so messed up.
So sad. I put the purple beans in. They gone.
That's a racket, man.
I know.
Why do you pay more for the purple green beans?
I don't think you do. And they turned green. So my kids were like, what happened to my purple beans? And then they realized they were still there, just a different color. So I've got 2 trees in this spot in the garden, and they're very cool because this mulberry just a few weeks ago, maybe like 6 for sure, and probably until 4 weeks ago was covered.
I want to touch
Close your eyes, Ella.
Are you ready?
Let me show you. Let me see how you shake it.
Whoa! Now we're just losing them all.
good.
Oh, good. Sweater berries are good. Buckets and buckets of mulberries. We put so many away in the freezer. We fed our friends, and now the berry season is over for the whole year. This one won't come back for our second spring. But in this berry season, we're just feeding all of the nature's woodlands creatures, and now it's just focused on leaves for Goldie. We've established some very steady fodder trees, and I'm really glad, like going back to the beginning of the garden, I would plant fodder trees again in a minute. Okay, there's a couple of figs growing here. We got some mixed feedback on the figs. This is a tree we weren't really sure if it would grow. Rainwater from the rainwater tanks. And then here's two right here. They're just so cute. I know probably people are not like infantilizing their gardens, but this is how much I love gardening. Is it doing good? So when we shared about this fig tree, we said, you know, we really get very few figs. This one's actually showing us even today just probably 3 times the amount of figs we've ever seen on this tree. And someone said, oh, the fig needs to be pollinated. Wait for the fig flowers to come. Maybe there are other types of fig trees, but this does not flower. This figs without flowering. I don't know enough about fig trees to tell you whether or not no single fig tree has a flower, but I will tell you this fig tree figs without flowers. That's almost it for the garden, but there's one bed left, and this was a seriously chaotic bed. We had beans and tomatoes and zinnias and chamomile and calendula, peppers, and a lot of corn. But the first round of sweet corn that we got, we pulled almost all of this bed out after we harvested the corn, and then everything just took off. Like these tomatoes were barely even growing. They were very small. So I think opening up this bed made a really big difference. This season of corn to be over and then let the rest of it just grow over. So we've got a little more of that icing on the cake over here. And we'll probably pull some of these up and make a really beautiful bouquet just for the girls. Like that's one of my favorite things is the girls love to come out here. They love to pick wildflowers, but they really like it when I make a little bouquet for them to go in their room. It cost me absolutely no money. I had a girlfriend of mine with a really hard day the other week. So I just picked garden flowers and took them to her. And it was just like, this is something I can do that doesn't cost a lot, but brings such a little bit of sunshine into your house. I highly recommend flowers, 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 anywhere you can. And the zinnias do so well in our area that they're gonna keep feeding me over a while. This is a little bit of lavender. It needs some more room, but the lavender is still growing as well. I am sweating like a hog, but we got a really good haul for people and then a little bitty haul for pigs. The ducks are calling for dinner. Thank you for gardening with me. I did not know that we were gonna find all this stuff, so thanks for joining me and walking through the garden in a very honest and raw way. If you're new here, you probably hadn't known what this garden looked like at the beginning of the season. We ripped everything out and we started from scratch. We added in these cool new Vigo garden beds on one half, and you can watch a video where we went from start until planting right up here.